Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Zion Experience, or the TZE, with your host Jimmy. I'm Jimmy and Jordan, and we got a couple guests on. We got Chuck Franks making another appearance with us, and we got a good friend and a good person in the industry that we're excited to talk to. I'm gonna introduce him as Mr. Steve Fischer today. So got a fresh haircut today. I think I've got the inside scoop. He's looking sharp. He's ready for this. We promised him it's going to be easy and just a casual conversation, but we're glad to have him here. I'm gonna do a quick intro. We're glad to have everybody back. If you're not a subscriber, you can find us. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. We're on YouTube is where the video, you can see us live and in video, and the rest of them are more audio. And we found out too, we're on through Amazon as well. So we're several episodes into this, and we're happy. And if you aren't a subscriber, we're glad to have you. If you're a first time guest, we're glad to have you. For returning guests, we're super pumped to have you here again. So subscribe to us, and we release one of these every couple of weeks, and we just get people we respect. We get people that are friends. We get relationships, and we talk technology. Sometimes we talk a little nonsense. Sometimes we get serious, and it's just a good time. So welcome back to the show. And without, I guess, further ado, Mr. Steve Fischer. So I'm going to introduce your bio here. I got it, Steve. And I've known Steve for several years. Jordan and Chuck have known Steve for several years. You become friends with people in this industry, and Steve's a person I consider a friend. So who is Steve Fischer? Steve Fischer is an industrial engineering professional. So we share that. I got a piece of paper that says I'm one of those too. He's served in various roles at Radial Incorporated, which is a third-party logistics organization. He's been there a little over 8 years, I believe. And his most recent position he was the Senior Director of Implementation Engineering. And Steve's just really seen, and we've happened to be part of it with a little bit of a pause in between, of just a great expansion of Radial's fulfillment network. They went through a couple acquisitions to become Radial, and they've expanded, I think, the space by over 4 million square feet, if this is right, Steve. And yep. In Steve's 8 years, and you can't quantify what all your responsibilities are, but you put a few down here that your responsibilities included all vendor relationships. You were responsible for capital purchasing of any facility equipment. You got involved with facility design and implementation and delivery, and of automation equipment, and just material handling equipment in general. And sorry, we had a little guest entrance there for a minute, but we might edit, or we might not edit that out. And just, you were really involved with the implementations engineering team. You built a really good team around you. And Steve likes to say he takes really a lot of pride in relationships with people and his partners, and just companies like ours, Zion Solutions Group. And you've achieved a high level of success. So hopefully that did some justice, Steve, to who you are, where you've been the last few years. And it's impressive. You're going to tell us some more of some of the 4 million square feet that you've expanded, but we've been along for most of the ride, and been impressive to be a part of it. Been a pleasure to be part of it. So we've got Chuck on here for just a short minute. Chuck doesn't like to hang out with us for 45 minutes or an hour because we talk too much, but he wanted to jump on and say a couple words to Steve, and then we'll dive in and let Steve tell us some more.
Well, thanks, Jimmy. Great intro. So, yeah, Steve, I just wanted to, we've had a long-term relationship. We've gone through a lot together, and we're just super excited to have you on. Thanks for being a part of this. And I know we've had lots of conversations, and just appreciate you as a person and your friendship. And I've always enjoyed, and we've always enjoyed, just your hands-on, on the go lives. You're there, you understand it, you get the hardware side of it, you get the software side of it, you understand the WMS that you use, or multiple WMSs, and it's just refreshing to have you on site. And the other thing that's just been awesome is that you get what it takes to go through a startup. You understand that there's going to be hiccups and glitches, and you've always surrounded yourself with really good people. And I think the line of communication is it's always open, and we're always sharing and going back and forth. And we have a thing here at Zion that we promise not to surprise anybody, and we try and do that with you. And while we've had our fun startup issues, it's always worked out. So I just wanted to just jump on and just say, really appreciate everything that you've done for all of us throughout our careers, and the ongoing commitment to just continue to work with you and to see just more success for you and to do all we can to help you. So just a big thank you for being a part of our lives, and we look forward to many more years to come.
Thanks a lot, Chuck, and thanks, Jimmy, for the intro. And that feeling is definitely mutual. You guys have been great to work with, and we've accomplished a lot of really cool and worked on a lot of fun projects together. So certainly makes it all the more bit enjoyable when you work with people just as motivated and as talented, as knowledgeable. So definitely have learned quite a bit from you guys, and hopefully, you've learned a bit from working with us as well. So definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, well, awesome, man. Well, good seeing you. Thanks for being on. We'll catch up soon. I'm going to jump off.
All right. Thanks.
All right. See you, Steve. See you guys.
Yeah.
See you. Steve, I'll take a more casual approach.
There you
talk
go.
now.
Say.
Right. We'll get out of the professionalism here for a minute. But so first off, how are we doing this week? We had a little time off last week. We recovered. We feeling good?
Yep, very good. Doing some projects around the house. Got some beach time in, so enjoying the summer for sure.
Well, let's circle back to that, because one thing that's cool about our industry is you get to know people more than just on a professional level. You get to know some personal things. So I saw some pictures that Steve sent me of some concrete cuts going on, some PVC pipe coming out, some other stuff happening. So when Steve says he's doing some projects, he's overhauling, the way I understand it, his basement. He's a DIY expert, him and his dad. Why don't you, Jimmy will appreciate that, Steve. Why don't you walk through what you're doing?
Yeah, I would say I definitely got my hands-on approach from my dad. Growing up, I was always the flashlight holder, and now I've graduated a bit to, helper and sometimes project manager. So, I definitely like to get my hands dirty with him a bit, but depending on how busy I am, sometimes I'm the one signing him up for some home improvement work while I'm, keeping busy in the 3PL world. So, yeah, we're doing quite a bit of extensive basement renovations, putting in a new bathroom, wet bar, you name it, drywall, plumbing, electrical. We like to do it all. There's not much we shy away from. So it's fun, and
So I see you on
quite a bit.
Yeah, I see on. I've seen the progression of. Looks like you were replacing the sewer stack, and you were putting in a new drain, and that's no joke when you get into that old cast iron sewer stacks and that 4-inch cast iron. It's there's little ways you can mess with it. Once you start hitting it, everything breaks.
Yeah.
The PEX and everything's so much easier to deal with in today's world. But I saw a little bit of it. I saw I guess it's your dad had his shirt off walking up or coming out the other day. Was that, yeah. What's Dad's name? I don't know if I've ever. Mine's
Brad.
Big Jim. Brad.
Yeah. He doesn't like when I pull out the camera, but he knows you always got to be camera ready when you're around me, as does Jordan and everyone else. I like to capture the fun and exciting moments. So yeah, we bought a little bit too much concrete to mix, so we had quite a lot to carry up out of the basement and return back to Home Depot. So that was fun, but definitely nice to have some time off with my dad and, do some of the heavy lifting and give him a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
And I will say, when it comes to the hands-on experience, we've been able to do that together in warehouses too. There was a project a while back where there was one thing I did and one thing Steve did that still to this day we take pride in. The one was we were told that we need a data RAM and drop. Huh?
How truthful is this story going to be?
This is very truthful. This is factual. This is the real.
I'll let you know when he's done telling it.
Yeah, Steve can attest
But
to
so
it.
far,
Let's hear it.
sounds-
I don't
So
recall
what it was, we were told by a controls provider that they needed data dropped into a panel. So Steve and the team, they brought down a 4-port Ethernet jack right next to the panel. I mean, 3 feet away. And I was told that's not good enough. We need to end the panel. So I'm like, well, when can you get there to do it? Well, they couldn't get there to do it. So we had a timeline to hit. So I bought some Cat 6 cable. I bought an RJ45 plug. I bought the tools for it. I went up to the site, got a ladder from their facilities guy, and I ran a data cable from the port up. I zip tied it all. Looks really nice. Still there today. Works like a champ. I think it's still there today. Haven't been there in a while. The other one is we were sitting there where Steve was a hands-on approach. Steve takes pride in his ability of Cognex scanners and the knowledge that comes along with Cognex. So we were sitting there and Steve asked for the cameras to be networked. I said, Steve, you can't. It just doesn't work. I've asked, you can't do it. So what did Steve do? Well, Steve got out his laptop, got out some cords, plugged into the cameras, contacted the guy, figured it out on the network within about a day. Done, moved on. So there is some hands-on approach. The point is that I agree with you, Steve. I'm joking, but I'm serious in the fact that Steve's been in a leadership position for a long time. And there's some people in life that look at a problem and they delegate it and they say it's somebody else's problem. There's other people in life that learn how to do it. They do it themselves so they can train others on how to do it. And all that does is makes everybody a more well-rounded individual, which Steve is one of the few relationships I have that truly understands end-to-end spectrum of the distribution center, way beyond what I know from an operations and warehouse management systems. And it's just it's a story about Steve, but it's truthful and it just speaks to his character, but some fun in it too. I take pride.
True story.
See?
True. Yeah, I've heard of
I told
both.
you.
So I'm going to grant the truth on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you get in these deliveries and you just have these stories that over the years they grow and they just continue to grow. We both have a common friend in Joe Barth, and we were talking to some people that also knew Joe, and they said, "Oh, we've heard your stories." And I'm like, they probably weren't. They were talking about me because there's some stories thrown around. I'm like, yeah, that was a long time ago, but you stay in the business long enough, these stories tend to follow you along, and then they sometimes become folklore, and then it's,
That's right.
But those are the memories. My best relationships have been made in some of the toughest challenges, some of the toughest implementations, and you appreciate, Jordan, like you said, you appreciate somebody. I've never been a big titles person. I don't care if I have to sweep the trash up, I'm going to sweep the trash up. If I have to get on my back and fix something on a conveyor, I'm going to get, if I got a tool and I can do it, I'm not scared to roll up my sleeves and do it. And neither are you two. And it's like, you just do what needs to be done, but you forge those relationships, and you forge some of those best friendships right in the heat of the fire. And that's where I like to be. I don't mind dressing up every now and then and getting in a boardroom. You got to do that in life too. But if I had my preference and I didn't have a family, I'd be out building these systems. I'd be on site. I'd be making them go live. That's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, certainly.
Got you all 3 times now, Steve. So you got to jump in, man. You got to get aggressive, get up in the camera.
Raise your volume.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say the more times you tell a story, usually the more it gets a little spin on it and gets more interesting. And the more years go on. So luckily that one was a little fresh, so not too much embellishment there.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Stick to facts. Well, anyways, I know, Jimmy, we got some questions here for Steve.
Yep.
Kind of talk about you a little bit. I don't know if you want to lead us off. And
yeah, I can. I haven't seen you in a while, Steve, so it's good to see you and good to talk in person. We had to take a little bit of a hiatus, and but it's good to see you. And I know there's some stuff going on with your career and your life, and just tell us. We really don't script this out. Steve and I were exchanging text messages last night, and it's like I look at these about 5 minutes before we get on and talk. I think that's the best. You get your best answers there instead of just trying to be too scripted. So we just want to know about you. So I introduced you, obviously, in a more formal way, but tell us, how'd you end up at, there's really 3 questions in one, but tell us about Steve. Did we do you justice? Why, and how did you end up kind of where you're at, and maybe in a 3PL, and just tell us whatever version of your career story you want to tell us. And
Sure.
we'd love to hear about it in our audience as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to Penn State, graduated with an industrial engineering degree. First started out working, it was at Radial, but at that time it was known as eBay Enterprise in the technology side. So I always definitely, other than being hands-on, kind of growing up, definitely very interested in tech. And that's where I worked for about a year. Didn't really think for a portion of my career that I was going to spend, much time being an industrial engineer. So I kind of fell into it. But after I worked in the technology side for about a year, kind of got bored of it. And at that time, Radial had a few positions open for industrial engineers at their fulfillment centers, but they were all required me to relocate. So at the time I wasn't really interested in relocating, but I went down to interview with a mentor of mine, Kevin Carr, and he convinced me to move to Kentucky, the great state of Kentucky. So I lived in northern Kentucky for a couple years and worked at a very large distribution campus at Radial, 600,000 square foot buildings. And before that, hadn't walked into a warehouse in my life, was 24 years old. So really spent, probably 6 months to a year just in awe of a lot of things, but was blessed to work with a really great operations team down there. A lot of people with really long tenure with the company, and just learned pretty much everything from the team there, how to run a DC, what works, what doesn't work. Came up with probably a lot of stupid ideas that wouldn't work, and had them explain to me why they weren't really feasible for an operation of that size. But I would say that's really, where I got to experience the excitement of e-commerce and third-party logistics, just shipping hundreds of thousands of packages at peak, working, 7 days a week when things get a little crazy, Black Friday through Christmas. And it's been a blast ever since. I took a year off to do some automation sales, but really just missed working in the distribution environment, and came back to work at Radial. And it's been, an amazing ride ever since, kind of working in the industry. We've seen a ton of growth, and just very, very enjoyable the past few years.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that you worked. I'm assuming it was Richwood, that campus in northern Kentucky. And I didn't realize you had moved down for a little bit. And I had forgotten until you said it. Kevin, I know Kevin. Kevin was a couple years ahead of me in school. And Kevin's actually, he was at eBay, GSI. Of course, it's gone through transformations, but Radial today for a really long time. He was one of the original engineering guys there. Him and Jason Adamczyk, I believe, were the two that I remember. And that's how I ended up where I ended up, because some of my guys at UPS left and went. And one of them was Adam Cropper. You and Adam probably crossed paths at some point.
Yep. So I worked for Adam for a bit. Adam
was there, and then Adam left to come work for me at UPS. And then he left and went back to there and worked at Tradeport and a new, I guess, TP1, there was a big new e-com customer that went in there, and then I met up with them. And I think our buddy Adam's over at, where's he at? He's at HelloFresh today. Right. Yeah. Jason's there too. Mm-hmm. Kevin, I think, is at Ingram Micro, but that's part of Seva Logistics now, if I'm right on it. So, correct. And it's such a small world. So you came to Richwood, got a couple years. Where'd you go? I didn't know you left for a year. Did you actually leave and then come back? And
Yeah, I left to move back home to Pennsylvania, so just wanted to be closer to my family.
Yeah.
So I left and did automation sales for a bit. That's where I got to know Cognex products
Okay.
very
Yeah.
well. Some vision systems, barcode scanners, robotic arms, PLCs. So that got me really involved in controls and programming and stuff, and it was of course very transferable when I came back to Radial with all the automation projects that we get to work on together. So it's
Sweet.
So
been
did Richwood leave such a bad taste in your mouth that you can't come back and visit Northern Kentucky every now and then?
no.
I haven't been here in a while.
I,
So, huh?
I still I got a lot of great friends there. They definitely, a lot of them give me shit for not coming back to see them
Right.
sometimes, but
Must be not that
just
great.
yeah, no, just been a lot of demanding projects, and there've been some stable clients in there for a while, so been definitely out on the road racking up the airline miles and hotel points pretty much everywhere else but Richwood, unfortunately.
Right. Or just anywhere in Northern Kentucky would work, but it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
Richwood. Just once in a blue moon would be nice.
No,
But I was going to ask
it's
you,
definitely got a soft spot in my heart. I got nothing
yeah,
against
well,
Northern Kentucky.
I got you. It's changed a lot. It's worth you coming back and seeing the
Yeah.
new scene in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky and in Newport. So, um, Steve, I was going to ask you. We've certainly got to know each other well over the years, and I've worked for two different companies in an integrator type world, and it seems like you've always been a fan of an integrator. Where it makes sense. You certainly have direct relationships on some product, whether it be commodities or what whatever else racking, but you've always seemed to enjoy the integrated relationship. So, just from your point of view, coming from a 3PL, what have you learned in terms of working with an integrator versus working with a manufacturer? Why do you continue to choose to work with integrators? What's your thought process on that?
Yeah, well, definitely have tried out both different ways of engaging on projects. As you guys know, the 3PL world moves at a pretty fast speed, so we really don't have a whole lot of time for missing deadlines and not engaging with all the different subcontractors that you may have to on a timely basis. So really needs and requires a high level of project management and relationships with all the different companies that are required to make a whole solution function as designed. So, um, I've been fortunate enough to have a really great team working around me, and there's been times where smaller projects we may be able to take on some of that extra legwork to get what's needed to be done in the timely manner. But more often than not, we got our hands full with plenty of other projects that we can do, plenty of efficiencies and labor saving projects to work on. And, in the long run, you may spend a tiny bit more on involving an integrator, but you really reap those savings in the time that you save and better results that are finally delivered. So it's one of those where you make a mistake maybe once or twice and then you're like never again. So it's just kind of been a no-brainer that it always works out more cleaner, gives better results to our customers and our clients to deliver projects on time, at the expected budget, not have any unforecasted spending or misses that weren't accounted, because just like I try and be the expert in my space, you guys are the experts in your space. So really rely on experts like you guys to make sure that we're not missing anything. We're not forgetting to account for any unexpected expenses or gotchas that we may have. And they always come up here and there, but more often than not, we're able to avoid those when working with a highly qualified integrator like you guys.
Yeah, and I think, Steve, what I've learned, and Jimmy, you probably experienced this from your UPS days, but I've never been in the 3PL seat, never been in that role before. When you being in charge of implementation, being there for go live, being responsible for making systems work, right? There is so much more going on than people realize. I mean, I've seen you in situations where, you're the guy and there's 15 different fires going on. And if you were to add on all of the, whatever it may be, conveyance, technology, sortation, the controls, the execution system, whatever it may be, it's just that you've got a lot on your plate that you already have to manage. So anything that you can, I don't want to say pawn off, but partner with, right? In a trusted partner to bring together a solution that's just one less headache for you. It seems like from what I've learned from you, there's value in that. And you understand that there's additional cost at times for that service, but it seems to have paid for itself over the years and just allowing you to have those successful implementations and projects, right? So Jimmy, I had one more question, completely unscripted, but just made me think about it.
Go for it.
Steve, I know that Radial has invested in technology over the years, and I think we are seeing a trend where 3PLs are more technology forward. And I think it's brought forward, and we preach this, but you've lived it, the importance of just good, robust software. So from your point of view, just talk through the importance of software in the dish. It doesn't have to be super critical or technical or detailed, but just high level, the importance of software in running a successful distribution center.
Yeah, I mean, kind of always learn computers aren't that intelligent. Of course, now they're kind of getting to be intelligent with all this AI, but they'll do what you tell them to do. Is kind of always what I've preached and learned. So, when you introduce different automation and robotics, they're only as intelligent as the software behind it. And in the 3PL industry, being flexible with that software is definitely a incredibly critical component because things move very fast, and sometimes it's our requirements that are moving very fast and ever changing. So we need to have something that's very configurable, that you can adjust parameters and logic in the software to get to what's needed. And as things like SLA or different KPIs change for our customers or for our business, we need to have software that can definitely keep up with those, ever-changing requirements. So definitely have had plenty of experiences where you work with, awesome hardware that can do really cool things. You see a demo and can do, everything except make you lunch. But then, when you got to get all these different systems to talk to one another, it becomes a whole different animal and definitely a big challenge. So, if you can't make it function reliably and do what you need it to do, then the value really isn't there, and will throw off your assumptions and your ROI, and really make a lot of problems where, automation may not make things easier. It may make it a lot harder.
Yeah. No, I think that was well said. I mean, I'll shut up after this because I've been hogging some airtime here, but I completely agree with that. And, I think you said it really well that the hardware is only as good as the software that's driving it, right? And as you're running these DCs and you're running 1 million different miles an hour, as you try to introduce various different technologies to solve different problems under the same roof, is when I think you can really see problems presented if you don't have an overarching software that can communicate and talk with those different components. So it's just a lesson. Not a lesson. It's just we've talked about this in previous podcasts. We've talked about this on blogs, but just understand the importance and the role that software plays in any distribution center, and don't minimize the impact of having a holistic software architecture to solve all those different technical aspects versus You can't just get one good technology with really good software and everything else lacking and expect it to pick up the slack, right? So just agreed with you. But Jimmy, I'll turn it over to you. I know you have some questions.
Yeah, I do. I wanted to hit on some because I think we share. I spent 12 years in the 3PL environment, so 12 of my 17 years of UPS were there. And if you've not stepped into that, you don't understand just that. It's a major portion of the scope, but you're responsible for operations and helping getting the training set up. And usually a new operations or management team when you're opening new locations and campus is a little different when you can pull from existing employees, but you got the people challenge and the operational challenge of getting people trained up. And I always likened it to like you go buy a new car, right? You got to teach them how to drive the car. And at some point they got to drive the car themselves. And it's not quite that easy to teach operations how to drive a car sometimes. And then the one that was always our biggest hurdle was the internal and IT side of just the ability to bring that group to the table. And then not to mention, you've got the physical side of what you would typically entrust, either do direct or entrust to a systems integrator. And it makes for a challenge. And I've always done the visual of just, you got a bubble when you go live in a new operation. And this bubble just kind of sits. It's a problem bubble. And sometimes you just kind of push it through the operation till you get all the bubbles out and the big bubbles out. But you just spend your time firefighting. You spend every day. It takes time to get that implementation J curve up. And no matter how good or talented you are, it's just, there's a lot of balls you're juggling. And Steve and team to do that and to do it across 4 million square feet and to do it across some of the pop-up sites that I know you all did and just really had a lot of success bringing on new customers, kind of starting small, gaining their trust, and then going bigger with them and selling them into a longer-term system and contract. I think radio did it as well as anybody over the last 3 to 4 years. And I think most of that has to go back to the team that you surrounded yourself with and were part of, because ultimately that was pretty impressive to watch. I would hear sometimes what you are doing. I'm like, man, I'm glad that's him. And all I got to do is put some conveyor in right now. And instead of bring on the temp workforce to pop them up and get up and going. And especially in the e-com world. So just some background and flavor, but I've walked in those shoes. I call it being a concrete walker. I stole it from a guy. I used that reference several times, Steve, is that we had a guy tell us, I asked him something on the floor when we were working a project, and he said, man, you're going to have to ask the carpet walkers that question. He said, I'm just an old concrete walker. And I thought it painted a good visual for me. And it's like, that's where I enjoyed. I enjoy right in the middle of the delivery. And you said a couple of things that I think people, this isn't all about promoting us, but at the end of the day, we got a business. And I think you're on here because you respect what we do. And we certainly respect you. And I think an integrator, a lot of times there's costs that you won't know that you had when you have an integrator until you don't have one, or you don't have, it doesn't have to be Zion. It doesn't have to be an integrator, but a trusted partner. There's things that we learn, we see, and you work through. No matter what project or how good you plan, something's changing. You're gonna have a challenge you got to overcome. And so we see that. And so a lot of those challenges, we get multiple at bats because we do it every day. We build systems every day for multiple different customers, and we know how to navigate and kind of guide people through some of those challenges. And then sometimes our voice, I don't know why this is. My wife can tell my kids something, and I can tell my kids something, and it's two different outcomes. And if Dad has to say it, boy, they stiffen up and they listen. My wife can just say it, and I think sometimes it's like that. Like, we do a lot of systems, so our partners are more likely, or sometimes just by human nature, to, when we make the phone call, that's just a trusted partner that's got your best interest in mind, and we can have a conversation that maybe an end user can have. Or it's different. You build one house, how much influence are you going to have over the guy framing your house or pouring your concrete versus you're a general contractor, which is essentially what we are. And now if that concrete guy messes a customer up and they mess two customers up, I'm going to find a new concrete guy. And I just think there's some hard to quantify advantages and savings in terms of having that partner. And I'm not advocating that you have to have. I wouldn't be doing the company that we do without, if I didn't think there was value and we couldn't help customers. And we certainly never step in where we think we can't help customers, but we feel like we can help. We had a little software, one of the last projects at the other company we did, we had a little software that we got through, and there was always this debate of what value did we add in the software. And I don't care till I die, I'll go down saying software's the ability to have good software is the ability to put in the functionality and take the time to document it, put it on paper and say what you're going to do and make sure you test it and walk through that process. And it's not fun. Not everybody loves it, but you need somebody that can help guide that process. And because it's just not something you can touch. It's not tangible. So I'm off my soapbox now, but what's that? You've lived the space. Like you don't bring 4 million square feet online without some challenges. And I'm sure you've had your share of challenges and overseen them, but it's good to have somebody there got your back. It's good to have somebody there that's rowing in the same direction you can trust and say, go fix it. And then they pick the phone up and they call you back. That's what we try to do. So
totally. Yeah. And I think, it really, really helps to have someone that is willing to take the time and understand, your business and what's important to you and, have an idea of what will work and what won't work. And, when you're suggesting ideas for automation and different projects, definitely one of the reasons why I've enjoyed working with you guys, especially Jordan, as we worked together quite a bit on designing different, material handling systems. There were certain things that Jordan knew, I can't bring this to Steve. He's not going to like it. He's going to think it's stupid or he's going to say that costs too much or different things. So definitely having people that have a good flavor for your business and what's important to you and all of those things and a true partner that is even willing to say, maybe this idea you came up with is over engineering it and we could cut out some things and save some money. That's where you really you have a great partner when they're willing to suggest things that help save you money and put less money in their pocket at the end of the day. So there's been plenty of experiences that we've had just like that where we wouldn't have thought of a certain way to solve a problem or a challenge without working with an integrator, and it's yielded millions of dollars. And like you said, just some of the relationships with different distributors and different companies through like the procurement process. There's been opportunities to leverage, lots of cost savings, look at used equipment. We've had to do that plenty of times to meet some challenging deadlines where, through the thick of the pandemic and COVID, manufacturing lead times were just crazy. And we'll be lucky to get any client that wants to wait, longer than 10 weeks to go live. So, waiting 25 weeks for parts for a shipping sorter just is not going to cut it for us. So, relying on you guys to lean on some of the distributors and get them to, improve deadlines, improve timelines for materials and, drive better pricing is something that, we've seen a lot of benefit in addition to just knowing our business well. And like you said, documenting requirements and everything for software is a huge challenge. So it's something that, in my experience, you can always use an extra set of eyes when you're looking at software requirements. You get to a point where you got a 50 or 60 page document, and by the time you get to the end of it, you're just like, man, I just want to be done reading this thing. So, sometimes you need someone else another set of eyes to look at it and make sure you don't miss anything. And, someone may read a description of a problem or an operation a little bit different than you do. And at the end of the day, it's all about how the person reading it that's going to develop the software understands it. If they understand it a little bit different than you, then what you're going to get is not what you asked for, and what you thought you were getting. So it's definitely, I think, the most critical aspects are just making sure that the communication and expectations are out there and everybody's aligned on those, like what's included, the cost of the project, the timeline, when everything's going to be done, and all the deliverables. And if you can align on all the communication for those three things, then that you won't be disappointed, and you'll know what to expect, and then you can rely on good people to deliver.
Awesome. I think I'm going to do a little rapid fire questions at you. We'll hit you with them, and you come back, just a quick 1 minute response or whatever. We'll just see how this works. We may have to edit this out because I don't know that I've ever done this, Steve. You're the guinea pig for this, but
Cool.
Jacob tells me, he gets in a little private chat and he tells me, it's like, all right, wrap it up. We try to stay in there. Nobody wants to listen to this longer than 30, 45 minutes. So let's start, because I think some 3PL stuff, and I want to focus on it. And you got some news you may want to share, may not want to share towards the end of this, but from a 3PL business model, just in how have you seen it change over the last 5 years?
There's just been a tremendous amount of growth. So, with that, customers have gotten a lot more demanding as well. We kind of call it the Amazon effect, but everybody's looking for their packages delivered sooner. So, SLAs and things for us have gotten more and more challenging to deliver in a timely manner. All sorts of challenges with, they say you can't build the church for Easter Sunday, as we kind of say it a lot of times. But, when you're looking at these massive peaks and volume spikes, and trying to get the volume out in a short time period, it's definitely been a big challenge. A lot of customers are asking for automation, and sometimes they're asking for automation just to automate. They might not really need it, but they may see all these different cool things out there in the industry, and they may just say, I want it, and I want robots, and I don't care if I need them or not. I want to have them. So, and then of course the labor costs going up has made automation a lot more justifiable in recent years. So.
Cool. I would agree with all those. So when you're talking, you work in a 3PL, you've been in this industry most of your career, almost all of your career, but what advice would you have for a customer that's really trying to decide, should I use a 3PL? Should I outsource? What's the 2, 3, 4, 5 advantages you'd rapid fire off of? Why use a 3PL?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just the ability to scale the business. As your business grows, it can be challenging to keep up with the high demand growth and fast pace. But that's where 3PLs are really experts at that. Lots of different ways to help keep up with that pace of growth, and that would be probably the number one reason. But I think the biggest thing I would say is to trust the experts. Just like there's different areas where I trust experts in. You got to definitely do your due diligence to find the right partner. But once you can kind of communicate and outline what are the important KPIs of your business and what your needs are, and get those out there, find the right partner for you, and trust them to run your business. Sometimes you don't need to get into the weeds of how it happens, but let the results speak for themselves, and try and assess your partners on different KPIs, but not necessarily how it's being done. And then finally, I would say, don't automate just to automate, with, the robot front. There's plenty of cases where automation is needed, but there's definitely plenty of cases where low automation or no automation is needed to achieve, what is required for someone's business. So if the ROI is not there, it doesn't make sense to overspend. And so a lot of times you're just introducing more complexity to your business than you need to.
Sweet. So scale, expertise, and the right solution. Those are reasons that people come and 3PLs do. I think you all do. Certainly, the industry. That's why they're there, and you all do it really well. And then you already said this a little bit, but I'm gonna give you another one on it. Is just what critical let me start back. You said project delivery implementation wise, in your view, what's the 3 to 5 items that equal success? So what's most critical to a successful project from an implementation standpoint?
Yeah, I think it's just aligning on the requirements, what's going to be delivered. The timeline is always very important in our industry, and the costs, what's in and out of scope. And if you can get that well documented and align on the communication of that, again, that's where expectations are going to be aligned. And that's, I want to see what you are expecting be the same thing, so that we're achieving success together.
Gotcha. Cool. Jordan, you want to ask any more? We're kind of rounding the corner. You got anything else we want to ask?
No, I think
I got one outro question, we call it.
Yeah, I'll let you go with that. I think I know what the answer is already, but I'll let you go with that. But no, I'll just get my piece out so we can wrap things up. But Steve, always good talking to you. You got a Travis Matthews shirt on?
Oh yeah.
We're not a golfer. What are we doing with the golf? I got distracted. We gonna get into the golf game now?
I got this at a golf tournament.
Oh, that's right. You played a little scramble, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you ready to start playing? We gonna go out and play 18 holes, play the ball down, play your own shot. Yeah.
I'm ready.
Well, good.
I'll have to make it down to Kentucky there for a golf outing.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. Right. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I got distracted. That kind of happens. But it's just like I said, Steve and I have had a good relationship for a while now. And but no, good seeing you. Good talking to you. Thanks for doing this with us. I gotta call you after this anyways, but good talking to you on the podcast. And Jimmy, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'll ask you the last question. I'll echo. It's like, Steve, I think our relationship has grown over the years, and just really appreciated you, and just thank you. We try to work with good people. We try to have good partners. We try to help good customers, and you certainly would fit in all three of those categories for us, and just really appreciate you for that. And so thank you for that. My last question or the last question, and you can give us final thoughts if you got it, is which Philly sports team has the best chance of winning a championship next, if any?
If any. Come on. Man, that's right now. That's kind of a tough one, because the Philadelphia Phillies are on a good tear here. And as much as I want to say them, but I'm going to have to go with my Philadelphia Eagles, of course. That's probably what Jordan was expecting. Definitely very excited for the football season coming up. You'll be sure to catch me at a few games. But yeah, the team they got with Jalen Hurts and, great offense, great defense, just so fun to watch. So definitely I'm all in on the Birds this year.
I was hoping they did it last year.
They did good last year.
Huh?
No, I'm not a Chiefs fan either.
Yeah,
not at all. But I was going to say, it's crazy with the Phillies how good. I mean, they're what, 10, 11 games behind, but only because the Braves are ridiculously good this year. Are the Phillies sitting in the wild card spot? They got that locked up?
Yeah, they're in the lead
Yeah.
right now for the wild card.
That's good. Well, I'm hoping the Reds. We were getting close last year where we were thinking we might have a Bengals-Eagles Super Bowl, which would have been awesome, but it didn't happen. It's a sore subject. But anyways, that was my guess. It was the Eagles. I felt pretty confident in that.
Yeah, there's always this year.
That's right.
Steve, thank you. Thank you again. Is there any last words, any news you want to share, anything you got before we sign off?
Yeah, sure. So I've been blessed to have a new opportunity over at cart.com. So gonna be hooking up with our good friend Joe Barth, and I'll be moving over there to lead their implementations engineering team. So very excited for that.
It's awesome.
But look forward to working with you guys together again over there at cart.com, and definitely thankful for all of our time at Radial and that we've had in the past, and just want to keep the great relationship, personal and professional going. So it's been awesome talking to you guys, and I got my I forgot to show them. I got my Zion socks on.
Got them on?
So I'm
Heck yeah.
We couldn't hardly see it. You're gonna have to
to
bring the whole foot up or something. Take a picture or something.
Yeah, I'll get that. I'll get a better shot in. A little hard to get my feet on camera, but
yeah. We like to have fun with that. We sent several pairs of socks out, and I don't think it could go viral, but we sent socks out. So some people probably are like, well, whatever. But a lot of people have fun with them, and we thought it was a fun idea. I'll have to tell you the story of how we came up with the Zion logo sometime. I hadn't shared any of that with you, I don't think. I put a poor soul through a long process to come up with the Zion logo.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And
you should have like some of the iterations framed behind you. I'm sure there's probably too many to get up there.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you. Enjoyed talking to you. Wish you the best of luck. And thanks for sending some time. So,
yeah. Thanks a lot. Appreciate
Thanks, Steve.
Later.
See ya.